Welcome to yet another episode of ETH Insights, and I'm Aritra Ghosh. Today, we are joined by Manish Varghese, Managing Director for India and the Middle East at Deininger, a global executive search and leadership advisory firm. Manish brings a rare front row view into how leadership itself is evolving. In this conversation, we will explore how expectations from leaders and of leaders are changing, the skills that will define the next decade, and what it really takes to lead in a world that's increasingly fragmented, fast moving, and high stakes. Welcome to ETH Insights, Manish.
Thank you, Aritra.
You spent over nearly 2 decades in executive search and leadership consulting, working across global firms and now leading Deininger in India and Middle East.
Right.
What have been some of the most defining chapters in your journey?
I'd say looking back, it's been about 18 years of being in the business of executive search, board advisory, and leadership consulting. Like you said, I've had the chance to work with some wonderful global firms. So Amrop, which is where I started, then I was with Hodges, and now I've been at Deininger for the last 7 years. Um, I think what's fascinating and what's kept me excited about this journey is that we are in the business of leadership, and it's interesting to see how quickly the leadership dynamics evolve, and that means that you have to constantly be on the move, constantly learning. Our industry is also very fast paced, and leadership consulting is a complex subject uh, that again requires you to constantly learn, adapt. You have to learn, acquire a lot of knowledge about your clients' industry sectors, their businesses, different roles, hiring expectations, talent dynamics, and eventually client expectations, which can always change. So I think one of the constant is the fact that you have to consistently adapt, grow. There is a strong balance that is needed between the expertise that you have or you build in a specialist sector space, but also balancing it with agility to be able to evolve and adapt. Um, I think looking back again, I've had the opportunity to also work in diverse business contexts and environments, different cultures, but I've been part of organizations which have undergone cultural transformation journey with the shift towards creating a high performance culture in the organization. Then I had the chance to work with an organization as part of the founding team to set it up, scale it, and grow it in a market where the brand was unknown. More recently, then I got the chance and the responsibility to completely transform, turn around, revive a business, and then grow and scale up. And now I'm part of a team where we are contributing towards the global transformation as we evolve into a more international organization as a firm. And at the same time, I'm trying to delve into new markets, expand business into new territories. So very different, varied experiences, and that kind of shapes you as a leader and how you think and operate. Ultimately, I think leadership is not a destination. It's a constant journey of evolution, of learning, of adapting, while at the same time having very clear connect with people and purpose.
Okay, and can you give us a brief overview of Deininger? Like, tell us about your global footprint, your core focus, and how your India Middle East strategy has evolved.
Deininger is an international integrated executive search and leadership consulting firm. We have our roots back in Germany. We've been in the business now for about 45 years. And I would say in the last 2.5 decades is when we have truly internationalized our business operations, creating a very strong presence in Europe and Asia, and also now a steadily growing presence in the Middle East and in the US. We are known globally for our work in board appointments, executive search, talent advisory, as well as leadership assessment and coaching. We work with clients which are global multinational corporations, family-owned businesses, private equity firms, as well as startups, and that cuts across a diverse set of sectors, I would say. What I would say differentiates us is the fact that we operate with a very high enterprising mindset. For us, we are deeply committed to creating long-term relationships. It's not about transactional approach. It's about really trying to work with our clients to solve their leadership problems through a very high, consultative and engaging approach. Um, I would say, as far as the India and Middle East strategy is concerned, India is not new. We've been here for about 2 decades. But I would say in the last 6, 7 years, we have been able to truly diversify our operations here and deepen our market presence. Middle East, on the other hand, we've been opportunistically catering to the market for quite some time, but we felt the time is now more important than ever to have a physical presence. So we established a subsidiary there in Dubai to cater to the region. It's a very dynamic, market, and leadership needs are undergoing a seismic shift. So we are already starting to do some interesting work there, and I'm hoping we'll be able to build a strong business out there as well.
Perfect. And the last decade, right from pandemic to the geopolitical shifts, it has completely changed how leadership works right now.
Yeah.
What do you think that what has changed in how leaders lead, what businesses expect from them, and what they expect in return?
Interesting. Um, I would say the last 10 years have been nothing short of transformative. We have seen a pandemic, we've seen multiple economic slowdowns, geopolitical shifts happening, technology disruptions, and now we are amidst a new wave of AI acceleration. Everybody's talking about that. And I think that has had a very profound impact on how leaders think, react, and operate. Um, I would say the expectations of businesses and their stakeholders is changing from leaders. Agility, adaptability, I don't think they are buzzwords any longer. They are pretty much essential survival skills. Um, I would, if I were to reflect back about 5 years ago, if I were to do a CEO search for one of my clients, digital sensitivity was a nice to have skill. Many times not even asked for by the clients. Today, digital savviness is non-negotiable. CEOs are expected to have that. I think that's kind of changing. From a leader's perspective, I think I would say they're also asking for more power, more trust, more freedom to operate, and I would say somewhat more empathy from people around them to kind of expect that they can also fail. Amidst all of this, I would say money is not too far. It's always right up there in terms of expectations of leaders. So I think yes, that's been a considerable shift that we've been seeing in terms of what's impacting leadership styles, how businesses are thinking. In fact, if I were to quote a recent McKinsey report, about 70% of CEOs have digital transformation as part of their top agenda. And they expect the leadership teams to not just support it, but be the drivers of that. So I think a lot is changing there, and it's fascinating to see all of that.
Perfect. In talking about leadership, according to you, what are the top forces that will, change the face of leadership? And in the next decade, what, according to you, will be the skills that will go from nice to have to non-negotiable?
I think there are quite a few things that will definitely have an impact. I have to say this, and I think it's pretty much a cliche now that AI and technology disruption will be impacting how we lead and operate. Leaders would be expected to be able to be comfortable with technological disruptions and have the digital literacy and somewhat the ability to integrate AI with the workplace, with the human capital. I would say second factor is going to be geopolitical instability. That is also going to have an impact on how the shift of global power centers are happening and what it does in terms of trade alliances and potentially trade disruptions. So again, leaders will have to be in sync with that. Climate change, focus on ESG is also changing rapidly. I don't think sustainability will remain a compliance issue. It will form part of a very important boardroom discussion. It will move into the core of strategy in terms of how you drive businesses, how do you create brand trust. Um, I would say there is also a generational shift that we're seeing in the workplace. New workforce entering, more diverse, multi-generational mix. There is evolution continuing in terms of hybrid remote working patterns. So CEOs, leaders will have to have the understanding of saying, how do you deal with that? And I think finally, one key factor, if I have to name a fifth one, is what I typically refer to as conscious capitalism. I don't think CEOs will be any longer be judged on profits alone. I think they will be tested on the kind of transparency that they are able to create, the kind of impact that they can create on the larger environment, society, and all of its stakeholders. So, in a nutshell, what does that mean? I would say, as a result, the nice to have transition to must have, and some of this I've already said, but agility, adaptability, resilience is no longer a nice to have. It will become table stakes. That's the definite. Digital literacy, savviness is going to be critical. How do you upskill yourself? How do you allow your organization, team, employees to upskill themselves, help them deal with the fear, help them to integrate AI into their working patterns is going to become critical. There's always the push and pull between IQ and EQ. I've always believed EQ is more important and more so than ever. Emotional intelligence is going to be very, very critical for leaders as they lead through diverse cultures, a different workforce mix, all this disruption, the need to be self-aware, the importance to lead with empathy is going to be very critical. One other important trait, it's been there, but I think it again becomes even more important is communication. Be able to be open and be transparent in how you communicate, especially in tough times. To come out, to the front, encourage people, share your concern, share your vision, align them to that, give them the comfort that the tough times shall pass, and if we stay concerted in terms of what we're doing. And finally, I think collaboration is going to be critical. More and more as organizations pursue globalization, the ability to collaborate across cultures, the ability to collaborate with different cross-functional teams. I think that's going to be critical, because leadership is not a lone journey, as they say. You've got to work with team. They're going to be a lot of people that you have to work effectively with to be able to be successful in what you're trying to achieve. So I think, that's I think what's going to shape the next 10 years if I have to take a bet.
And in your experience, what's one leadership challenge that you didn't see coming in the last 5 years, and how would you say that has shaped your thinking?
A few, but if I have to kind of, I always reflect on this, almost 2 decades in the business. Change, disruption has always been a part of the leadership storybook, right? But what's definitely changed in the last 5 years is the pace at which things are changing and happening. And I think that's the real game changer, is the rate of change, the pace of change that sometimes throws you off. And that again reaffirms the fact that you have to constantly adapt, you have to constantly learn. Changes are happening in terms of technology cycles shrinking. Geopolitical shifts are constantly disrupting trade routes. Consumer preferences shift almost overnight at times. And the workforce expectations are evolving dramatically. So you have to be cognizant of these changes that are happening, and be comfortable with the pace of change. I think for me also personally, it has an impact on how I think and how I operate. It's also important for me when it comes to business planning or making decisions. I think you've got to have the long term next 5 year vision in mind, but I think execution has to be mapped to 1 year, 2 year blocks, and you have to constantly recalibrate, often at times by annually or even on a quarterly basis. So I think, yeah, eventually that's been something that's been something that I did not see coming, I would say, and that has had a major impact on how I see, operate, think like a leader.
Perfect. And talking about the long term vision, looking ahead, what's the one big leadership test that's on your radar, and how are you and Deininger gearing up for it?
I think it's not going to be too different to what I said about what leaders will have to be ready to embrace. I think for me personally, there are two things that I'm going to be always toggling with. Partly is to say, you've got a long term vision, but you've got to be toggling with short term agility almost on a daily basis. Be aware of what's changing and how rapidly it's changing, especially when it comes to tech, AI, and how do you build upskill on those aspects. And our business is has a nature of very young workforce. Their expectations, their aspirations are different. I can't look at it from the lens of a 20-25 year old that I was when I started my journey. So I think I have to have different lenses to wear when I'm engaging with different people as part of my team. And I think that's where emotional intelligence comes, that's where empathy comes. And I think that's going to pave the way on how leaders are going to be successful. At the end of the day, I don't think leadership is about having all the answers. It's perhaps about knowing what are the better questions to ask.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Manish. Thank you so much for giving us such an honest and nuanced insights into the leadership qualities that we need for the future and how we need to work towards it.
No,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Aritra, for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure interacting with you. Very interesting, insightful questions. Always helps to reflect back on what you've done, what you're doing now, and what you will be expected to do moving forward. So thank you for this.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.